What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at The Distance. Got a video for you guys. This is a post-fight to the Lucian Bute versus Glen Johnson bout. Matchup was for the IBF Super Middleweight Championship. Match ended in a unanimous decision for Lucian Bute. So pretty much I'm just going to go into the fight, break it down. Pretty much, if you look at the bout, Lucian Bute was, I think the big difference in this fight was the hand speed for Lucian Bute. Because with Lucian Bute, he was, like, if you look closely at the fight with Glen Johnson was throwing his jab and he couldn't zero in and close the gap in the fight offensively. It turned around and Lucian Bute is the one, starting around 5 or 6, he's beginning to close the gap and he would do stuff like he would come underneath his jab with the up jab from the outside, or he'd come over the top of his jab of the Glen Johnson jab with the right hook and kind of change directions, and and he's right back in front of him and kind of cutting him off. I think that later towards the fight, Bute stopped respecting Glen Johnson's power and he started to kind of get closer to him all the way to the 10th round, to where he threw these combinations towards Johnson, to where Johnson was on the ropes and he possibly could have. There's a possibility he might have been able to stop Glen Johnson if he was able to, if he stood there and he sat down his punches a little bit more than he did. But it was smart to kind of do that Ron Lyle thing of have him on the ropes and just come back and go back to just boxing. So if you look at the early rounds, Lucian, in the rounds 1 through 3, really not much of anything was happening. Bute was standing on the outside, throwing the up jab towards Glen Johnson. Not much was landing. Both were really feeling each other out and trying to determine what they were going to do in the early rounds, in rounds 1 through 3. Round 4, Glen Johnson came in and he started to march Bute down and pressure him with the jab. He wasn't able to kind of walk towards the direction that he wanted to because Bute had quick hands. He has quick hands, and he's able to answer back, and and early on, he was coming underneath his jab, and I believe that Johnson was really respecting Bute's punching power. Being that they sparred so much, I'm sure he has an idea of how hard Bute can throw. Due to the fact that they have sparred together numerous rounds. So round 4, Glen Johnson came in. He marched him down to jab, pressured him a little bit, threw a lot more jabs in that round, but couldn't follow it up with the right hand. And round 5, Bute took over for the rest of the fight. 5 through 11, took over. He began to close that gap. He even hit Johnson nearly clean with an uppercut in round 7. Nearly hit him almost clean with an uppercut. Had Johnson losing his balance, and Bute was just able to maneuver around the ring and kind of do whatever he wanted to do in the fight, but knock out Johnson. His hand speed was the telling story of the fight. He was able to, first off, he was able to, come underneath his jab with his own up jab, right hook, counter Johnson's jab with the right hook. And he threw a lot more right hooks in this fight than he tends to throw. And not only did he throw more right hooks, but I think he threw less body shots in this fight. He threw less body shots and emphasized more on pretty much using his hand speed to his advantage. He pretty much took away Glen Johnson's right hand because he was able to land first with his left hand. So he was able to beat Johnson to the punch as he kind of telegraphed the right hand and he was coming in with the left, and pretty much he just moved around the ring. He's kind of he's slipping jabs that usually set up the Johnson right hand. And also what was a little bit surprising was he was moving a lot towards Johnson's left, and Johnson didn't throw the left hook that he tends to throw. And also there was points in the fight to where Bute just stood in front of him. And like I said, I think it was all the hand speed that told the story of this one. So overall, good fight for Bute. And second off, I don't know how Johnson thinks he won the fight. If anybody thinks he won the fight, just hit me up. I don't know how Johnson thinks he won the fight. But you know what? He's going to be able to get another fight because he's Glen fucking Johnson. He's going to be able to fight whoever doesn't fight Bute next. If it's Ward, I'm thinking that if it's going to be the winner of Ward and Froch, is going to face Bute, of course. So I think that the opening could be Mikkel Kessler, possibly. I could be wrong. I think the opening could be Mikkel Kessler. Or whatever happens, I think if the winner of Ward Froch fights Bute, Kessler fights Stieglitz next, and more than likely, the loser of the winner of Froch and the winner of the Super Six against Bute could possibly get Johnson. Who knows? But I think that Johnson's saying he's going to stay at 168. You know, there's going to be fights for him, and he might be used as a stepping stone. He might have to somewhat work his way back up into the rankings after 2 straight losses. But then again, he's competing in this tournament. He competed in the Super Six tournament. He's been facing champions over the last couple of years. You know, 3 out of his last 4, he's faced champions, people with, you know, belt holders. So we'll see what happens. But I just don't think that Glen Johnson won this fight. I just think that Bute controlled too much of the fight for Johnson to really think that he won. That's only my opinion. I just think that he controlled it a lot with his hand speed and pretty much beating Johnson to the punch and beating him to the area and slipping his jabs. So it is what it is. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter, Julian W. the Great. Anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. That was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.